Hello everyone! In this video, I'll show you how I make concrete pots. It's super easy to make them, and the end result always comes out smooth and strong. These pots can be used for candles, planters, or as a storage. I'll guide you through the whole process and give detailed explanations to every step. And in the end, we will do a crush test to see how strong these pots actually are. So, let's gather all materials and start crafting. First, we will need sand. I'm using silver sand. It's very fine and has a nice gray color. Other type of sand would work as well. The only difference is the texture and the color of the end product. Usually sand is sold in big bags. I've already put a small amount of it in the container for convenience. Next ingredient is cement. I will be using white cement. Portland cement will work as well. Again, the only difference will be the color of the end product. Cement also usually comes in large bags. I've transferred a small amount of it in the container for this tutorial. I've left links in video description to both sand and cement. Then we will need silicone molds. I have two different types. You can buy these silicone molds online. I've added links to this mold in video description below. We will also need a measuring cup. We will be using milliliter scale. Just a normal water. Soap water. I will explain more about soap water later. Stick for mixing. A spoon. Preferably the one you're not going to be using for eating. Gloves to protect your hands. And here are all the ingredients. Again, check the video description to find links to all of these products. The first step is to measure the volume of your molds. This step is needed to make sure that we don't mix too much of a cement mixture. If you know exactly how much your molds can fit, you can mix precise amount of cement without wasting too much of a product. For that step, you will need your mold or molds, plain water and a measuring cup. Pour some water into molds and then pour water from the molds into measuring cup. Then check how many milliliters you have in your measuring cup. This is the exact amount that your molds can fit, and it means that you will need this amount of cement mixture to fill in your molds. In my case, it's 100 milliliters, so it means that I will need 100 milliliters of cement mixture, but I think I will mix a bit more just to make sure I have enough, approximately 150 milliliters. Now that we know how many milliliters of cement mixture we will need, let's prepare our molds by spraying them with soap water. Spraying molds with soap water is an optional step, but I always do that to make sure that the surface of the end product is smooth and release of the bubbles is easy. I make soap water by adding a few drops of dishwashing detergent into the plain water. Then I shake the spray bottle very well, and the soap water is ready. Then I take my molds, make sure that they're dry, and spray them very lightly with the soap water. Make sure to not make them completely wet. It's not necessary, just lightly spray them. Now our molds are ready and I set them aside and moving on to the next step, which is preparing a cement mixture. For that I will need sand, white cement, measuring cup, a spoon, and gloves. I always wear gloves when working with cement to protect my hands from getting too dry. For our mixture, we will need 40% cement and 60% sand. In my case, I will need 150 milliliters of the mixture. It means that I will need 60 milliliters of cement and 90 milliliters of sand. I first place 90 milliliters of sand into measuring cup. And then to the same measuring cup, I add 60 milliliters of cement. So in total, I will have 150 milliliters of dry products in my cup. Now mix sand and cement together. After sand and cement are mixed, you can start adding some water. I always add the water gradually, starting with a very small amount, and then mix it. This way, it's easy to control the consistency of the mixture, and you are less likely to make a mistake of adding too much water. I don't measure exact amount of water I add to the mixture. I just judge by consistency. I find it way easier to not measure it. It's not a big problem if you add a bit more or less water as long as consistency is right. Here, the consistency is getting closer to the one I want to achieve, but I want my mixture a bit more liquid, so I will add last bit of water. This is the consistency that we need. It should be easy enough to pour, but not too liquid. Now we can pour cement mixture into the molds. I also do it gradually. I first fill approximately 1/3 of a mold with cement. Then I tap it very well and vibrate to make sure all the bubbles are released. This step is very important. If you don't release bubbles, they will show up on the surface of the end result. Then I add a bit more cement and tap it again. Then I moved on to the second mold, and I do absolutely the same procedure. First fill it to 1/3, tap it very well, then fill to half, tap it again, fill completely and tap and vibrate very well again. So in the end, I filled my mold completely with cement in 3 batches. When both molds are filled, I still continue with vibration for a little bit to make sure that all the bubbles are released, and then I leave them to dry. Concrete will need 24 to 48 hours to dry. After 24 hours, you can already release pots from the molds, but if you want to be extra sure, wait 48 hours. I waited 48 hours. After that time, the concrete was very dry to the touch, so I was sure I could safely release the pots. The drying time of concrete also depends on the humidity levels in your room and the thickness of the pot. To release the pot, I slowly and carefully turned the mold inside out. Concrete doesn't stick to silicone at all, so it's very easy to release it. The other pot was a bit more difficult to release because of the shape of the mold, but I used the same technique. I gently turn the mold inside out and then pull it out. As you can see, the edge of the pot is darker than the rest. It's because it's still moist and it will become completely dry in few hours. Even though after 24 or 48 hours the pot is very hard to the touch, the curing process is still ongoing. The curing process is approximately 28 days. After that, the concrete reaches its maximum strength. So the pot gets stronger and stronger every day until it reaches its full hardness. Our pots are ready. As you can see, the surface is really smooth, there are absolutely no bubbles, and the edges are clear and sharp. You can use such pots as candle vessels, planters, or jewelry containers. It's also possible to experiment with colors by adding iron oxide pigment to the concrete mixture. Let me know in the comments if you're interested, and I can do the full tutorial on using pigments in concrete mixture. Don't forget to check video description for all materials and tools I used to make these concrete pots, and let me know in the comments if you have any questions. And we're now moving on to the last and the most interesting part of this video, the crush test. At this moment, pots are 4 days old. Let's see if they survive the drop. The pots didn't break and they even left marks on my wooden desk.